we decided with the in-between is that it's not a physical location, and this is really kind of the key to how we designed it, because a lot of the visuals came at the script writing stage. I mean, people, I think, feel that, you know, at some point you hand it all over to the special effects guys who just throw all this stuff in there, and, you know, it's sort of the smorgasbord of imagery. But that's not the case, because you have to map it all out in the screenplay, and everything does have a purpose and a reason. And it starts out with the concept that the in-between is not a physical location, so we're not saying when you die or when Susie dies, this is where she goes. It's not like in New York or London. It's not a physical place. What it is a state of mind. It's a state of, particularly, it's a dream state. It's a state of subconscious. It's her mind. And the in-between is essentially her imagination. It's her mind, because her spirit, her life force, is not connected to her body anymore. It's not anchored and grounded in our world. It's separate, free. And we took just the idea that we all dream at night when we're sleeping, and now Susie is living, her spirit is living permanently in that world of dream. And that was fun when we were writing the script, because it allowed us to create the visuals using the imagery of dream and a lot of metaphor, where everything represents something else. Nothing's really direct. And I mean, I can give you some examples if you like. Because one of the things with the dream interpretation, because this is where we kind of looked for our clues, if you dream about a house, strong, vivid dream about a house, people often say it's not about literally a house, it's about a person, that a house is a metaphor for a person. So Susie has this reoccurring image of a solitary, spooky house with a lighthouse sticking out the top of it in the middle of this empty field. And the lighthouse also in dream analysis represents death in some cases too. So that was a fairly obvious symbol for us to use. And the house that she sees is Mr. Harvey. That's in fact the killer. That's our metaphor for the killer. And she doesn't know what happens to her, which is one of the mysteries. She runs away from her own murder. So as the murder's occurring and as her spirit is becoming separate from her body, she's running, she's racing away, she's fleeing him. And, you know, we play a little conceit with the audience that, you know, that people aren't sure whether she's actually escaping or not. They think that she might be running away. But as it turns out, she was murdered, but her spirit kind of flees at that time. So she doesn't know what happens to her body. That's one of the mysteries. And the only man that does is Mr. Harvey, the killer. And one of the things she wants to find out is where is her body. You know, the lovely bones, on one level she thinks is her body, but they turn out to mean something else. So we use the house to represent Harvey, and likewise he keeps a souvenir, which is a charm bracelet that Susie has, and he has to destroy most of that because it's evidence that could catch him out. But he does rip off one charm and keep it, which is the little silver house, and that house represents Susie. We're going using the same imagery again. And the gazebo that she sees represents Ray, who's a boyfriend or a future boyfriend that she was hoping to have her first date with. And he said, you know, meet me in the shopping mall by the gazebo. That was going to be her first date. And she never makes it there, but now she imagines this gazebo. And even the scene where she's just confused, she doesn't understand fully what's happened, and she's running towards this gazebo with Ray, and the solid ground is turning to the swampy water, and it's dragging her down. I mean, that's a very, you know, common dream image where you're wanting to get somewhere and the ground turns to syrup or marshmallow and you can't kind of make it. I mean, everybody has those sorts of dreams. And so we did the in-between, we totally played it as Susie's subconscious. And so it's her mind, it's not a physical place.
Were you aware, as you were doing this, that on some level you were pushing the boundaries of what conventional filmmaking would be for audiences?
Well,
in terms of understanding what you were doing.
Sure. I mean, everything I just described, we're not really expecting anyone to understand any of it. You know, but that's the fun of surrealism. I mean, it's surrealist art. It's Dali. It's Magritte. It's all those wonderful painters. I mean, you know, you're not supposed to literally understand what it is. Otherwise, there's no point having the metaphor or the image. So you just have to hope that you're creating enough clues and enough of a representation of something that people get the idea. And you know, it's also the thing that we were doing, which is unusual, I guess, and I think people are reacting to it in all sorts of interesting ways. We're filming a drama, you know, a sort of a film that has pretty straight dramatic content using a lot of visual effects, and there's an interesting reaction to that because you know, it seems to me that there's a feeling that, you know, visual effects belong in fantasy movies or they belong in science fiction films, but they don't belong in drama. And you know, the fact that we're using visual effects, which we're obviously doing to represent this world of dream in a very vivid way, you know, that I think that people are having a hard job getting used to the idea that you're using, you know, CGI and visual effects to support what is a sort of a fairly, on one level, a straight dramatic sort of narrative.